The possibilities of finding a hidden secret in a cave out in the Nevada desert, weaponized against people that get too close. Could we have found an article which finally provides the answers behind Kenny Veach's disappearance? Hi there, welcome to the Kenny Veach M Cave Mystery. Today taking a look at an article which I've never seen before, and in terms of how I came across it, it was through Facebook. Just so happens that coverage has been done on the case on Facebook, and a link was shared to a website or article which has gone in depth in regard to the case. So join me today as I read and share that with you, analyze, check for any new information, details not heard about before, alternative theories in which some are quite eye-opening and reinforce with what we've recently been talking about, and the possibilities of adding it on to a map analysis if you stick around in this video. Welcome to those watching the live premiere. Share your live reactions and thoughts in the chat box on the right. And for anyone else and at any point or time, be sure to drop a comment down below under the video to let me know your thoughts in regard to what happened to Kenny. And do you think that there is military equipment out there which is weaponized in some way to deter people from getting too close or to harm individuals in some way? Did Kenny Veach come across that? Did Jeff Clark indirectly experience it when zapped? You let me know your thoughts down below. It will help with spreading awareness and generating new ideas, and I will respond back to the comments shortly. If you are interested though in any other videos on the case which you've missed out on in recent time, or you would like to reflect back on more articles on this case which I review and analyse, you'll find both playlists available top right corner where the eye symbol is up there. And if you want to support the channel just in general, in the comments pinned message by me, there is a PayPal link and channel membership link. With that all being said, let's get straight into today's article. The name of this website is historicflix.com. The title, Strange Disappearance of Kenny Veach. Rather simplistic title for once. No headline-grabbing words, key lines like Area 51, not even the mention of the M Cave. So it will be interesting to see if it's all focused heavily on Kenny's disappearance and whether it does make much reference to the M Cave mystery. By Stephen Jones, we'll begin reading. The Mojave Desert, located in the southwestern United States, is a brutal and unforgiving landscape. And that is true. Even though Little Jomay Canyon is a rough, brutal place, when you look beyond at how desolate it really is, and if you're out there by yourself, you got to take great care. Sprawling over parts of 4 states, California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. The area is so vast that entire European countries like Ireland and Iceland could fit comfortably within its boundaries. Now, I like the way how this article is setting the scene visually for us, because I think there was a website called Travel Nevada, and you'd think that would be more centered around the geography, the location, the visual aspect to tell a story and picture it, and yet they didn't do that. But here, that's been done. And in regard to Utah, the deserts over there, how vast and dry they can be, the mountainous areas, etc. I've done video coverage in those locations and map analysis when it came to the Dylan Rounds case, and that was rural. Now, the high desert is prone to extreme temperatures and arid conditions. That's in regard to indirectly what Jay Silverheel's fellow investigator suggested, the cold traps for Kenny and searchers going about. Higher elevation, temperatures can drop, and then getting down to the lower elevations, the temperature can rise. I believe it's that way around. And with those extreme temperature changes, depending on what you're wearing, it can have a wearing effect on your body and can be quite serious. Besides that, In November of 2014, an American hiker named Kenny Veach had a strange encounter with a mysterious cave in the Sheep Mountain area just north of Las Vegas. I'm surprised they never really mention it as Little Jomay Canyon or Picture Canyon. They just regard to it as Sheep Mountain area, which is probably the best thing because it's vague and generalizes the whole area. But Kenny Veach, he was kind of specific in terms of his YouTube comment, and it was in a different area. Born in 1967, Kenny Veach loved the outdoors, connected with other hikers and outdoorsmen on social media. He was funny, creative, and energetic. He was also obsessed with the desert. Right, okay, first of all, what's this on about? That Kenny Veach was connected with other hikers on social media. I've never seen that before. Whilst Kenny Veach may have had hiking videos on his channel at one point before they mysteriously vanished, got deleted or privatized post-disappearance, I personally don't remember Kenny Veach interacting with other hikers online. If we're talking about volunteers post-disappearance, hikers have communicated, but not with Kenny. The odd one communicating with Sharon Pilgrim, Kenny's ex-girlfriend, Eric the hiker, and we saw how that went. The person supposedly went missing or claimed they were going to go out there searching for Kenny, but did not answer or follow up with an update, so a bit unknown of. When Kenny Veach was alive and how he did engage with people online, it was more known for talking about his experience with the M Cave, and that was about it. Kenny Veach did challenge people and welcome others on his hike. Now, unfortunately, at this moment, I can't show you the screenshot. This is all from memory, and some of it may be documented in my previous videos or the articles that I have already done. The reason why I can't show you it is because Kenny's comment, his final comment and thread before he disappeared for good, that was removed and deleted. Not on his page, channel or video, but on somebody else's, son of an Area 51 technician. The answers behind it unknown till this day. And it's so annoying because there were some very important comments by Kenny which I could analyse, go back over, but it seems too late now. Unless it's archived somewhere, or if I look back on previous videos and it might be there, but it's very unfortunate. But in regard to Kenny encouraging or challenging people to come with him on the hike so they can see it for themselves, did Kenny Veach get any takers? Did anyone reach for the call and go out with Kenny and something went wrong? Or it attracted the wrong crowd of people? Who knows? Once again, another mystery. But considering Kenny does hikes mostly by himself and not with his girlfriend, even if the girlfriend has exaggerated claiming to have gone on multiple hikes, Kenny still wanted others to come with him, or was open for that in his, I think it might have been the November hike, or if not, the October one. One or the other, supposedly people didn't show up, but Kenny was willing and ready for it, unless it went wrong secretly in the background. What I'm getting at is, I don't remember seeing Kenny interacting with other outdoors people and hikers online, the same way like how you see it with Jeff Clark to Silverheels, to Jay Chuck to SB Vegas Adventures. In search of Kenny and M Cave, different hikers from different areas and some locals coming together, talking about it online, mapping it out, sharing personal experiences, thoughts, theories, that type of communication. I don't remember Kenny ever doing that. Unless you remember, you can drop a comment down below. But for this article or website to claim it about Kenny Veach is quite a bold thing, because it just seemed like Kenny was more so a solo hiker, a solo adventurer, a solo storyteller. Didn't really see him interact with people online because it was a short span of time with the case in mystery more so opening up. So when you get these articles that make these bold statements, do they know more than us, or are they just making it up and just going with the flow because they kind of expect that of Kenny Veach because of who he is and how open he is? He's likely interacted with outdoors people and other hikers online. but from my own eyes and what I've witnessed, I've just not seen that within Kenny. The only other thing you could put across, but it's not a stranger and it's not just someone online, but someone in real life too, would be his nephew, Hunter Veach, who he has done some hikes with in the past elsewhere. Has the odd photo as well, proof of that, on his Facebook page, I think 2012, 2011, in some woodland area with his nephew. So Kenny has been out on other hikes with fellow outdoors people, but in terms of general communication online, I've not seen that. I've only seen it between Kenny and others roughly when it came to prove it to us. Where's the cave? Go back out there. And then the other person saying, if you go back out there, you won't come back. And Kenny says, what makes you say that? And then that's how it ended. So that's the only communication that I've seen, which is a bit weird how the article states it. Nevertheless, let's continue on. In terms of Kenny Veach being described as funny, creative, energetic, the creative factor I agree with. Being energetic could also be mixed up with being nervous, because when you see how he was in his house tour video at times and with the secret room, he ended up stuttering all over the place. Too many thoughts rushing to his mind, a slip of the tongue, on the edge of revealing something he's not supposed to. Unusual. And when he was out in the desert going by certain areas, how he started trembling in his voice, sounded nervous, scared, whether he felt he was being watched or he knew he was in the right area, but for some reason he just couldn't let on to it. You know, when he said it's deep and it's dark, he sounds kind of scared when retelling that story. And then when he came across that other cave, which supposedly had eyes inside, and Kenny whispered, looks like, and I'm not going up there, and starts walking off quickly. I wouldn't say that's energetic behaviour. I'd say it's more scared and nervous. Now, maybe the part where he was a little bit more energetic, more so enthusiastic, would be just before Wild Horse Pass, when he was getting those pinion nuts, talking about nature, sounded quite positive about it. But after that, not so much. When he got out of Pitcher Canyon, he sounded disappointed and let down, like he couldn't find a cave. And in the unreleased footage, later released by the girlfriend post-disappearance in 2021 or 2022, when we saw Kenny returning back to the vehicle, he did appear quite down and disappointed, which is understandable, but to say he's really energetic and creative, I think a bit of an exaggeration. To describe Kenny as funny, I don't know where to get that from, because maybe it's just my observations. I wouldn't say Kenny Veach was a funny person, unless it was some comments he made online or Facebook posts which were described as funny. But I wouldn't say he was a serious individual. He wasn't like that. He was quite open and talkative and somewhat passionate, but I wouldn't say funny. So I'm just wondering if at times do these articles just merge lots of key buzzwords and terms to try and generalize the characteristics of what Kenny could be like, not what he was like. In terms of being obsessed with the desert, I guess you could say that's true. We've seen that photo of Kenny in the past, quite an old one. Also, there appears to be a caption underneath the photo, and it says, "Photo of Kenny Veach taken from one of his videos." Now that is actually quite shocking. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, because in terms of the one video on Kenny's channel still to this day that's about hiking is his M Cave hike video, and he wasn't dressed like that, and that appears to be a different area, and he appears to be holding a snake. And there was no footage or photos from that hike video on his channel till this day that shows him looking like that or posing to the camera. So this article has got that wrong, but at the same time, it could be true in other ways, because Kenny Veach at one point did have multiple hiking videos on his channel, whether it's linked to the M Cave mystery or not, whether it's linked to Little Joe May Canyon, Pitcher Canyon, or a completely different area, there is a possibility that Kenny Veach did have this photo from one of his videos or a screenshot in some way. But was it ever uploaded to his Facebook page, this particular photo? I'm not too sure, can't remember. but I know some news articles have used this particular photo of Kenny in the past. Even I have for my thumbnails. But to give a source of where it actually came from originally by this website is rather interesting, because I've never seen or heard it worded that this came from one of his videos on his YouTube channel, when considering his YouTube channel does not consist of any other hiking videos. And more so, I wasn't familiar with Kenny using photos in videos like a slideshow. This is a still photo. Doesn't mention anything about a screenshot, and I don't remember Kenny posing to the camera in his hike, his M Cave hike, just like he was stood there and giving directions, incorrect ones, and pointing about. But if this is one of his older videos on his channel, post-disappearance, still up on his channel, but then quickly taken away or deleted, from what I remember witnessing and some of the viewers since. I mean, maybe Kenny Veach did have an old video or a slideshow of his hikes and whatnot. The only other thing that I would suggest as a possibility, could it have come from a video but not Kenny's? Does it come from Sharon Pilgrim's YouTube channel when she did it in memory of Kenny Veach, like a slideshow, where it showed photos from the past of their adventures together, photos of Kenny out in the desert? Maybe it came from that. It's always a possibility. I don't know if he was dressed like that on Sharon's channel with the video that she uploaded of Kenny Veach in a desert area handling a snake whilst she was stood recording. I don't know if this supposed photo comes from that, but if it's from that particular video, then it wouldn't, because that video was a video and not of any photos included. So if it does belong to any channel or video, either it's one of Kenny's deleted videos from the past on his channel, which is no longer available, or from Sharon Pilgrim's, the girlfriend's channel, in which it's a slideshow memorial memory page of Kenny, and one of which is this photo. But it has been used a lot on different articles. A source was never given until now. So for anyone watching, you let me know, have you seen this photo of Kenny before, and do you agree or know of where it came from originally? Really interesting. Now, it says, once he posted, I hike over mountaintop after mountaintop and sleep on peaks under the stars. Sometimes I have to scale giant cliffs to get myself out of a jam, but I always make it back. Interesting. Now, I don't know if this article will re-quote Kenny in the other areas, like his possible exaggeration of hiking distance and whatnot. If it ever did, or any other articles, I'll try and screenshot it in the moment, just so I can use it for a future reference, because as I said, Kenny's original comments were deleted. So these articles which quote Kenny are likely correct, right? And these articles just remember it or archived it at the time before it did disappear, maybe. It says that Kenny was proud of the fact that there was only one time that he had to be rescued on one of his adventures, and that was when he injured his leg at the top of a mountain. But does it give any quotes of him talking about that? Doesn't appear to be the case. And how Kenny originally worded it, from my memory, was he went 20 miles up a mountain, and that's when he injured his leg. I think it was his left leg. From my memory, I don't believe Kenny Veach gave a description or a location of that mountain he hiked up, but 20 miles one way is quite a lot of distance, considering Kenny's M Cave hike route is 10 to 11 miles or so, and you saw how knackered and worn out he was when he got back from that. So if you take into account 20 miles, doubling it. So if Kenny Veach did his M Cave hike route and he went round twice, that's roughly the distance he did when going up a mountain when he did his leg in. Is it even possible that he would have done that? If he was so knackered and tired and exhausted from his M Cave hike route, could he possibly do another 10 miles onwards or on repeat? In the case of a mountain, of course, 20 miles up a mountain, but was it 20 miles of steep incline, or was it gradual? Was it ground level and then slowly working your way up? Who knows? Because in terms of the distance there, that sounds extreme. And if Kenny managed it one way at least, okay, he injured himself, which is understandable, but also reckless. How did he injure it though? Jeff Clark crushed his foot when it came to a boulder falling on down up Robbins Canyon. But as for Kenny Veach going up a mountain, did he slip, trip? Did a boulder fall on him? Did he go over his ankle? Did he misplace his foot and it slipped and it twisted or snapped? Who knows? But he said he needed to be airlifted out of there. And whilst Kenny may be proud that it only happened one time and, oh, Kenny got bit one time too and needed antiviral or whatever you call it, and it was kind of costly, that probably influenced why his YouTube channel name was called Snake Bit McGee, also known as Snake Bit My Knee, something like that. Hence why he wears snake guards in the video of Sharon Pilgrim's channel that one time, I think it was. But nevertheless, with Kenny also mentioning to his nephew Hunter that if he didn't find the M Cave on his next hike, the November one, he would continue on north over Wild Horse Pass north for 45 miles in one direction. Even if it wasn't 45 miles in one direction, it was there and back. When you half it or break it down, it's not far off from the claim of Kenny doing 20 miles up a mountain and he wasn't able to make it back because he got injured. Now, if Kenny Veach didn't get injured on that 20-mile hike up a mountain, would he have made it back to 20 miles there, 20 miles back without injury? No, because he might have been exhausted, tired, dehydrated. And I wonder if he pushed his body the same way as he did on his M Cave hike when he did the 20-mile mountain hike. Did he have enough food and water, or did he limit himself just like his M Cave hike? Now, there's some people on the sideline, which is understandable, like Jeff Clark, saying maybe Kenny Veach exaggerated his hiking distance for that particular one when he did his leg in, because it's not possible or it's unlikely that he would do such distance, 20 miles, one way. If he struggles with his M Cave hike route, going up a mountain and that's all it is, that's going to be brutal. Maybe Kenny did manage it one way, but it was less than 20 miles. Maybe it was 7 miles. Now, that's influenced by Jeff Clark when it came to the reference of Sheep Peak, because somewhere from Joe May Road where you park up, going up to Sheep Peak is roughly 7 miles. Now, if Kenny Veach did that hike, and that's what he described, it's not 20, it's 7. He would have exaggerated himself there. So what else is he exaggerating about? But what I want to make clear, when Kenny Veach in his hike video on his channel was referring to Sheep Peak, which he falsely called Gas Peak, he said one night trip or staying overnight up in the mountains, Sheep Peak, next day coming back down and making it to the highway. I think that was a successful return. But in terms of the other time of doing his leg in, I don't remember him mentioning the location. I believe it was a comment on YouTube on Son of an Area 51 Technician, and it was a part of that comment thread which has been deleted since, and that's where Kenny described his experience with his injury and being airlifted, but no mention of location. If the location was mentioned though, and if it does link to Sheep Peak, it will also reinforce that Kenny exaggerated, and it makes you wonder, what else could he exaggerate about? The M Cave? What he finds along the way, the location. Tired of the daily Monday through Friday grind, Kenny wanted to be his own boss, be in charge of his own life, and have the free time to immerse himself in his desert explorations. The way that's been worded sounds rather vague and could be applied to anyone in life, but as for Kenny Veach, I wouldn't say he talked too much about complaining of the Monday to Friday grind when it comes to working. Kenny didn't go into too much detail about that. Okay, the girlfriend went into more about Kenny quitting his job or so and trying to live off in other ways and grow and be successful and struggling as well, financially possibly and more psychologically. But that's the girlfriend doing the talking, the mouthpiece. We never really saw it from Kenny, the horse's mouth. So the way this article words it here, kind of doing the talking for Kenny, like how the girlfriend would, and I don't think that's accurate enough in my opinion. Besides that, so Kenny quit his day job and decided to be an inventor. He started a YouTube channel documenting his creations and his forays into the desert. Well, that's interesting because once again, it's suggesting that Kenny had multiple hike videos on his channel. And if you're looking present day, you will not find it. But someone like me and others that looked in the earlier days, there were videos on his channel. So this article seems to know that, or it just assumes it, and it just so happens that it is correct based on us, the witnesses, what we've seen at one point. But Kenny's starting his YouTube channel. I can't remember what date it was when he set it up. Was it 2012? I think it was actually earlier on than how it's suggested here. And in terms of being an inventor, he only did like 2 or 3 videos on that. And it was to do with the Shark Tank submissions, which didn't really work out. And he uploaded 1 or 2 of those videos, or 2 or 3, on the same day, which seemed unusual. And it was after his M Cave hike video too. They were kind of spread apart. Then it says, it was in June of 2014, using the name Snakebit McGee, Kenny left a comment in response to a YouTube video that read, "That ain't nothing, I'm a long distance hiker. Kenny. Found cave near Nellis Air Force Base," and the vibrations. Now, it doesn't give the quotes though here, which is unusual. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter. So this is all in quotes, or should be in quotes, by Kenny Veach. And yet it's not done that like I did earlier on. So that's why I'm not reading it out, because we have read it many times. But then it says, unbeknownst to Kenny and the rest of the world, that comment would have tragic consequences. Which comment then? Kenny describing his experience with the cave. I think it's jumped ahead. The bit about unbeknownst to Kenny and everyone else, that comment would have tragic consequences. It's not tragic consequences because of Kenny describing what he previously experienced. The tragic consequences, indirectly or direct, is the thread in which a person called Lemmy Kilmister followed it up and said, hey, if you go back out there, you won't make it back, you won't return. And Kenny said, what makes you say that? And that is the foreshadowing of what was to come, Kenny going missing and not making it back. So they kind of jumped there, they've ignored that part, which is unfortunate. And a subtitle, where's the proof? Of what though? Kenny's comment on that video, Son of an Area 51, sparked a flurry of requests for him to prove his claim. Now, the thing is, there have been other articles over time which have pushed the false agenda that his audience and strangers were bullying him and forcing him to go out there. And other viewers have suggested that too. At the end of the day, Kenny Veach is a fully grown adult that can make one's own decisions, right? And whether people encouraged, forced him or not, Kenny appeared to be the determined, passionate individual that would go back out there to prove to others, and maybe more so to prove to himself, maybe make himself proud that he did explore it, because he is known, as he said, for exploring and spelunking caves, and this particular one he didn't. So maybe he would want to finish what he started, and that would be enough motivation. So let's just see how it goes here. Since Kenny hadn't documented the first trip to what would become known as the M Cave, he needed to go back to the area to locate it and this time document what he found. On his second search for the cave, he went armed with a 9mm handgun and a video camera and that massive tripod. When he returned from his hike, which is true, the October one, he uploaded the video of his excursion to his YouTube channel in what has famously become known as the M Cave video. Kenny was light-hearted and enthusiastic about his hike. I don't think so. As I said earlier in this video, when Kenny Veach was out there, 3 to 4 hours of actually making it from his vehicle to the mine shaft, of walking and hiking, 3 to 4 hours of unrecorded footage, 3.7 or so plus miles of not recording anything, at least to what we're aware of, at a time when he would have had more energy possibly, and then later in his hike wearing down, becoming a bit more tired because you've used your energy up all that way. Just like when you do exercise, the early sets or the starts, you might have the most energy to burn off and make the most of it, and your mind as well and mood. But we don't know because Kenny didn't record that. In terms of when Kenny was at the mine shaft, he was, I wouldn't say he was overly enthusiastic, but he was talking and giving locations which weren't all accurate, so it's not a good look. The only time when he was really enthusiastic is when he was getting those pinion nuts. And then after that, it was just like a downward slope in terms of, I guess, tiredness kicking in, but also mood. Because when you don't find a cave and you're at Picture Canyon coming out the end stage, he's like, and I didn't find that funny looking little cave, bit of a tongue twister. And then when he exited the canyon, he said, I couldn't find it, and yet it was easy to find, in his words. How can it be easy to find when he also said when he first found it, it was hidden? If it's hidden in the first place, it shouldn't be easy to find. And when it's hidden, either you got to go deep looking for it and put effort in, or it's hidden and you accidentally come across it, just like how dog walkers accidentally come across human remains, just like what we saw with Frenchman Mountains. Things like that can happen unexpectedly, and you tend not to have it documented or recorded. So when it adds on to Kenny Veach going out there on his second hike, his recorded one, a total of 3 hikes, that's not right. This article website has failed to include a very important factor, is that in Kenny's hike video, in his words, I believe, roughly worded as, I've been out here 2 other times beforehand. So when Kenny Veach was going out there, supposedly in October, his one and only recorded hike, when he was trying to prove it to people, what he originally found, in the article that's described as his second hike, but in reality, it's his 3rd hike out there. Because Kenny said, I've been out there 2 other times before. And what are those 2 other times? Was it the first hike or the second hike when he came across the cave? And on the other day, the other hike, which he didn't come across the cave, what was he doing out there? Is that what links to him at the start of his video where he said, one time I went up to Sheep Mountain, stayed the night up there in the mountains and came back down the next day, down the canyons, maybe Picture Canyon, and then onto the highway. Maybe that's what Kenny was referring to. So not guaranteed, but maybe his first hike out there in the area was Sheep Peak, camping out there and making it back. His second hike was in the area, supposedly, and came across the M Cave. His 3rd hike was his recorded hike where he was trying to prove to people what he originally found on his second hike. His 3rd hike unsuccessful. And then one final time, 4th hike out there, and he doesn't make it back. What I'm getting at is, the more times he spends out there, the more he should know about the area and the possibilities of what's present and the locations and the names, and yet he still managed to get it wrong. And he even mentioned, I'll need to look at my map to check the distance and measure it. If you've already been out there before and you've done a similar hike in order to come across the cave, then why do you need to check for the distance or measure? If you're doing the same exact route as you did before and you're aware of the time and distance, why do you need to check again? Unless you've done something different this time compared to the last. And is that why you couldn't find a cave? It does make you think. If we scroll down to this particular photo, what's this all about? An image of the infamous M Cave. How on earth can you state that this is the M Cave when it's a M Cave and it's just an example? I believe there's a rock wall there just in front and then a sign behind it saying danger restricted area. I believe this is the photo which originates from exploring abandoned mines in unusual places, in which that guy, I can't remember his name, what's his name? Frank. When Frank went out there, but in a completely different area, did not give any coordinates or the location to search. I know SB Vegas Adventure said he thought he found it on Google Earth and was going to consider exploring the location, retracing the steps. I don't know if that was successful or not. If you know, or if anyone's connected with SB, just leave a comment down below about that. But basically, Frank was tipped off by some military guy who he knew, a contact, couldn't give the location or name, had to keep it classified, and then went there, recorded it, and Frank found an Area 51 sign inside of that shallow M-shaped cave with a writing on the side scratched, etched in the rock saying hatch or so. There was airflow, which implied that there was like some kind of mine shaft back there or deep down inside. There's some nail in the rock as well, planks of wood on the floor, which looked like it came from a mine shaft. The Area 51 sign people debunked as you can stage that as a prop from Amazon or eBay. But then that danger restricted area sign, which you see on screen right there, that's when Frank went back a second time and it was just suddenly there. It just appeared. And Frank was like, oh, well, I've got to get out of here. I can't stay around too long. They might get me. That's the source in regard to this image. And I don't know if it actually mentions it. It doesn't appear to. So this article is using loose imagery to state it as a fact that this is the M cave, and that's not true. That is not the M cave, but it is a M cave. Okay? And it's supposedly in a completely different area. But still, it's mysterious, it's unusual in some ways, and if it could be explored or debunked further, it would be good to do so, of course. You know what? I'll get a screenshot of it, just in case I need to do a video. Apologies about the flash, that's just when you take a screenshot. Anyway, Kenny documented some wildlife, as in a bird, and found a whole horde of pine nuts, and that was before Wild Horse Pass, that he gleefully ate on camera. He stood next to an abandoned mineshaft. That was at the start of his video. So the description of his hike here is in the wrong order, and rather sheepishly declared that he was unable to find the cave on his second hike. Incorrect, his third hike. Much to Kenny's dismay, that video was met with criticism. Many thought he had made the whole thing up, and the public demanded proof of his claim of a mysterious cave with supernatural properties. Now, I don't know if it is possible, and if anyone can give me an answer, be sure to drop a comment down below. It'd be much appreciated. Is it possible to search for the creator, the YouTuber's own comments on their own video, specifically the M Cave one on Kenny's channel? Because in the early days, I'm sure there might have been some comments or responses from Kenny Veach on that video. But when you look now, it's flooded with thousands upon thousands of comments that it'd probably be lost like an iceberg effect. So I'm just wondering, is there any way to be able to single out comments or filter them to try and find the oldest comments? Not the newest, not the most popular, but the oldest comments, and see what Kenny had to say on his channel. Because I don't remember looking, and I don't think it would have been possible, because it would have taken too long to do so. Like with Sharon's comments, you look at the responses there's like 600-700 plus replies. It would take forever to look through. If only there was a way to filter it yourself. There is a way to filter comments with keywords, but that's when you're the channel owner, not as a viewer to some channel. That's unfortunate. Besides that, it says, supernatural properties, viewers actively encouraged, and some even dared Kenny to go back out there to the mountain range a third, which would be the fourth time. However, one comment on his video, which has since been deleted, read, "No, do not go back there. If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. You won't get out." It's interesting, though, how it says it's been deleted since. Was it deleted at the time of when Kenny's comments were deleted too? Or was it deleted earlier? Well, to my knowledge, Let Me Kill Mister's comment was deleted at the same time when Kenny's original comment and the whole thread attached to it was deleted. It all happened at the same time. So it's interesting how the article acknowledges it to some extent, but it doesn't acknowledge Kenny's original comment being deleted in the first place. Because that warning of don't go back out there, that was a part of Kenny's thread. And a thread is a chain of replies and responses to the original comment in Kenny claiming about coming across the cave. So comments within the thread can be deleted and it won't impact the main original comment by Kenny. But if the original comment is deleted, every response is auto-deleted too. As one thing goes down the main thing, everything else does too. Hopefully that makes sense. Besides that, Whether that comment was made by somebody teasing Kenny or whether it was a serious warning by somebody who was personally familiar with the cave is unknown. That's quite interesting, that. The suggestions of another person could be familiar with the M cave and warning Kenny not to go there. But a person issuing a warning would have had to have experienced it or something similar to give out the warning. So why would Kenny not make it back, but the person that may have experienced it to give a heads-up warning was able to be alive after? That's what's weird. Regarding the M cave, Kenny said, "I solo hike across mountaintops that most people wouldn't dare go. I've been in more caves than I can count. I play with rattlesnakes for fun, but this one particular cave was beyond anything I've encountered." Right, so it's broken down, these quotes, as part of what we saw a bit earlier on. A fateful decision. Hoping to put the naysayers in their place, Kenny hiked out to the territory a third time, which would be the fourth. On the 10th of November 2014, Kenny once again made his way to Sheep Mountain area, which is close to the US Air Force installation called Area 51. Not quite, because that is about 55 miles northwest. It's closer to, though, military land in general, such as Nellis Bombing Range Test Range. It mentions that Area 51, known for its speculated connection to UFOs and secret government experiments. So it's interesting how it does bring up Area 51 here, but not in the title of the article, which most news outlets, medias, like to do just for the added attention and bringing people in. So we have Area 51, located near Green Lake and is within the Nevada Test and Training Range. As late as 2012, the US government denied the existence of Area 51 and it is still closed to the public. Kenny had informed his loved ones that he would be gone for a couple of days. When he failed to return home on the third day, his girlfriend Sharon Pilgrim reported him missing. Now it's interesting how it says on the third day, but I'm sure it was described as an overnight stay, meaning the second day is when he would be making it back, not the third day. And you think the first 24 to 48 hours are critical, maybe it can carry over onto the third day. I think one comment or excuse by Sharon Pilgrim was, well, I thought he might have made it back home and just failed to give a heads up, as in making it back safely, so I thought I'd give it a day or two and then reported him missing. Nevertheless, the official police report states it was 7 to 8 days later when reported missing. So clearly there was no rush, there was no urgency, and not enough worry, which is deeply disturbing. Unless you report someone missing late because there's nothing to worry about in the first place, because you ultimately know what's going on. Then what's this one? A screenshot from one of Kenny's last videos before disappearing, which is true, because it is from one of Kenny's videos. It's the M Cave hike one. To describe it as a screenshot is true, because it's from the video, you take a screenshot. It becomes a photo from a video, which is pretty simple. But earlier on, when we saw that other photo where they described it as a photo from his video, not a screenshot from his video, but a photo, is unusual. So it must be on one of Kenny's deleted videos. A slideshow video where photos are included, because Kenny's M Cave hike video, he wasn't dressed the same way, as you can see, but also he didn't take selfies or photos like that. Interesting. Both ground and aerial searches were conducted, Red Rock Search and Rescue, but no sign of Kenny could be found. Dave Cummings, Red Rock Search and Rescue commander, reported finding Kenny's cell phone next to an abandoned vertical mine shaft. Notice how it says an abandoned mine shaft, not the mine shaft. I know how it says here where Kenny filmed part of his MK video. You might as well call it the mine shaft. Make it bold and stand out. If you say a or an mine shaft, you could argue and say, well, which one is it then? It could be one of many. Red Rock didn't give a clear explanation as to which mine shaft they found it at. It could be the one that SB Vegas Adventures recently located, where it'd be quite eye-opening. Specially trained individuals were called in to conduct a search of the mine. Unfortunately, aside from his vehicle and his cell phone, no trace of Kenny was ever found. Well, let's just make one thing very clear. These specialised individuals that went along only searched for so long, and in terms of the mine, they did not search it. Not physically. They sent a camera down and that was it. Not exactly a thorough search, was it? It was a little bit lacklustre. Opportunities wasted at the time. If a person actually went inside of that mine shaft, and it's not a mine, it's a mine shaft, and looked around thoroughly, we would have known whether or not the chances of this crystal skull still being there. If it was placed there by Kenny, or more likely to be, if it was noted in 2014. Jeff Clark indirectly captured it on camera in 2017, but we don't ultimately know when it sources back to, as in what year it was placed there. Was it before or after Kenny's disappearance? That would be really important. And Red Rock could have been the ones to uncover that truth, but they never explored the mine at the time, only a camera. So, yeah, the article failed to mention that. To say that no trace of Kenny was ever found, that's kind of BS, because there was a trace of Kenny. His scent. It's his scent that led to the mine shaft. You see, the thing is, if Kenny truly didn't want to be traced or tracked, then why take your phone in the first place and then decide to drop it off at the mine shaft? It's as if Kenny is teasing. He wants to let people on to the journey so far and then cut it short and say, you're not going any further, I'm placing my items down here, good luck, you won't find me. It's like playing mind games. At the end of the day, it comes across as if you don't want to be found, don't take anything with you in the first place which could trace you to up to a certain area. Because even if they don't find you, they traced you up to a certain point, and it makes it seem like you half want to be found, but also you don't want to be found. Also, like if an individual was going quiet, they went dark, they ditched, they ghosted you. They went off the face of this earth, off the radar, in real life or online, and you didn't hear from them. And it's like, have they gone missing? Are they okay? Are they struggling? Are they in danger? And if they responded back later with, I was kind of half expecting you to reach out and do something about it or say something. And yet maybe other times or in general, a person might back off or go quiet under the radar off the grid because they need time to reflect. They need peace and quiet. They need space. And people that want space but also want someone to chase them for answers, for a follow-up, it's like you can't have both, but some people do. Some people want to be avoided and neglected, but also they want to be chased and followed up on. Some people want to be spoken to and talked with lots and lots, but also they don't want any contact at all. You can't have it both ways. And with Kenny Veach, it was as if he didn't want to be found, but he wanted to be found up to a certain point. And that's like playing with people's emotions. That's like manipulation, psychological warfare, what the general public do, what I've experienced myself, what Kenny Veach is doing in some way. It's like teasing. And why would you be teasing? Now, at the end of the day, even if Kenny Veach didn't take his phone, and even if his claim or the mouthpiece, the girlfriend saying, Kenny likely wouldn't want to be found, or that's what he told me at some point in the past in a conversation. Even if that's all true, even if Kenny Veach didn't take his phone, his scent, right? People can track a person's scent within a certain time frame period. And it makes you wonder, did the girlfriend purposely report Kenny missing 7 to 8 days later in hopes that the original scent would have dispersed, died down, dispersed, you know, along the lines of that? But if Kenny Veach was reported missing as soon as possible and a search done a lot quicker and not like 11 days later, would they have found any more leads in regard to Kenny's scent? Because it was claimed it ended at the mine shaft. Would it have gone any further or in any other directions? Would it have brought any other answers about if it was done quicker? I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section about that. The next subtitle reads Theories. So that'll be interesting to see the possibilities of what's mentioned. There are three main theories as to the fate of Kenny Veach: death by natural causes, murder, or suicide. Quite simply, the desert could have swallowed Kenny up. Interesting how it does mention murder, because most articles don't go that deep into that possibility. But with what we've seen from Frenchman Mountains or nearby there, as in how Kenny originally described where the location of the M Cave is at, near to Nellis Air Force Base, which is east of Las Vegas and closer to the Frenchman Mountains, well, there was a homicide there. I think it was 2018, and they were stabbed 6 times and shot as well. Did Kenny Veach come across something like that and was on the receiving end? Wrong place, wrong time. Now, any number of things could have happened to him whilst out on a 3-day hike. Numerous predators live in the desert that could pose a threat to human life, like the mountain lions. Interestingly though, out of most if not all of the hikers that have gone out there since looking for Kenny and M Cave, I don't think any of them have come face to face with a mountain lion or recorded it on camera. In addition to mountain lions and bighorn sheep, several venomous snakes make their homes under rocks and in caves. And Jeff Claus encountered the odd one here and there. And I'm not talking about Jay Silverheels, I'm talking about an actual snake, in which I believe it was when doing the Robbins hike, and Jeff Clark either sat on it, almost, or was close to it and had to try and avoid it. SB Vega's adventures in recent time did come across a giant scorpion as well, up Little Jomay Canyon, so there are dangers out there, the stings, the bites, the venom and all of that. And the power of the jaws, if you're talking about the mountain lions, got to be careful. But then you've got someone like J Chuck Vlogs, that I think may have camped near the mine shaft or a bit further on. He didn't even have a tent. I don't think he had a bed. He just slept raw and survived. Everybody does their things differently out there, and luckily it works out for them. Besides that, Kenny himself had survived a rattlesnake bite. A what? A rattlesnake bike? Did he get run over by a snake disguised as a bike? Well, that's interesting. More so a bite bitten. Dodgy. Scorpions and venomous spiders also live in the numerous nooks and crannies throughout the desert. Kenny could have fallen from a cliff, broken his leg, or busted his hip. He could have simply tripped over something and hit his head on a rock. I think drones may have been used by Red Rock Search and Rescue, and if the helicopter was used flying on over, they didn't report anything about seeing Kenny in nuts and crannies or hard-to-reach areas. In terms of hikers that have gone out there since, they've covered high ground and low ground. But for Kenny Veach, if he did fall off a cliff, if he did get into a hard-to-reach area, you could ask yourself, what the hell is he doing over there when he originally described the cave to be on ground level? Now granted, he did contradict himself at the start of his video when he said on the side of a mountain, which could imply higher elevation. So it's back and forth about the possibilities as to the terrain he would be going over. So the possibilities of him falling off a cliff or disorientated and falling into a nut and cranny, what are the chances of that? Depends on whether the cave was actually on the side of a mountain or if it was on ground level, one or the other. Some people believe that Kenny intentionally left his phone at the mine shaft so that he could not be tracked any further. But why would you allow yourself to be tracked up to a certain spot? That's what's weird. And to be honest, they tracked Kenny up to the mine shaft not because of the phone. They weren't anticipating that. They tracked Kenny's scent, which led to the mine shaft, which led to finding the phone and coins. That's the difference. Kenny could just as easily have dropped it, the phone, and later, when whatever emergency occurred, only then realised he was unable to call for help. I don't think Kenny Veach would accidentally leave his phone behind. We've not heard that mentioned any other time before that. Whilst he might be preoccupied at times or absent-minded or gets nervous, I just don't think he would just drop his phone down and just continue on. I just don't think. The second theory was that Kenny was murdered. Nefarious individuals sometimes conduct business in the isolated desert, and this is not beyond reason to think that Kenny could have easily witnessed something that he shouldn't have. Some people in the past have talked about, I guess, cartel, drug dealing, kidnapping, seeing something you're not supposed to, and Kenny silenced in the process. See, the problem is with the murder theory concept and the suggestions of illegal activity going on out there. Whilst it can be true in desert terrain and rural, vast, desolate places, you do stuff maybe in the open because you don't anticipate an audience or anyone to walk by, just because of how desolate and out of place it really is and out of reach of civilization. But this is to a whole new level. Little Jomay Canyon and Picture Canyon is not just a casual spot. It's not just a desolate spot, but it's a very desolate location. And whilst you do have Jomay Road, that only goes so far, and then you've got no choice but to get out of the vehicle and then walk up to the mine shaft and onwards, and that can take 3 to 4 hours. So depending where Kenny Veach ended up and how far he went, if he was to come across illegal activity being conducted, it certainly wouldn't be up Little Jomay Canyon, because you got to cover it on foot. And would people doing dodgy stuff go out of their way to meet up somewhere, to get out of their vehicles and then to go out hiking? Are they even suited or meant for that? Probably not. Are they willing to cover all that distance on foot just to do some activity when they could do it elsewhere on flatter land where it's more accessible and still quiet enough? It does make you think. But the theme of Kenny coming across something he wasn't supposed to see and silenced for it, maybe with the involvement of murder, is on the table. But depending on the type of illegal activity and who by, that's the question. Due to the location, the terrain, you can't drive vehicles up to the mine shaft, you can't drive up Picture Canyon, you'd have to go on foot. And would anyone be bothered to do that in order just to conduct some dodgy business? I don't think so, unless it was elsewhere or just before so far down Jomay Road and Kenny was driving on down. But was there any sign of a struggle, any sign of blood near to the vehicle, anything like that? No, that's not really been acknowledged. But there's a lot of information which Red Rock hide from the general public, so who knows what might have been found or anything to them that may seem normal but unusual to us based on what we know of and what we can compare with. But will that ever really happen? Now, the only thing you could suggest is when Scott Natal went out there, I believe in 2021, 2022, over Wild Horse Pass, as if you were going to go towards Picture Canyon, but near to some agave pit or sagebrush, taking a right, heading north onwards, as if you were going to go to Hidden Forest Trail, but not far on from turning off right near to Picture Canyon, heading north. I've done a map analysis of it on my channel. Scott Natal came across rock formation, a narrow little wind-like tunnel, but rocks around, and it led to a camping spot of a torn, shredded tent up against the rocks, damaged beyond belief and repair. What caused that exactly? Some tin cans, food, empty, and then hidden under rocks, a long bamboo concealed hidden sword. What the hell is someone doing with that out there? You got hiking sticks, hiking poles, fair enough. You got small knives, but a big long sword, what are you going to be using that for? And how long does it date back to? Now, when Scott Natal saw it, he took the sword away. He also supposedly said he lost it later. Then he went back out there in 2022 onwards. The tent was now missing. Some people have speculated, others suggesting that Scott Natal set it all up to turn it into a bigger mystery than what it actually was. But if there is truth to it and it originally existed, how far does it date back to? Because before Scott Natal was out there, Jay Silverheels was too. Jay Silverheels was near to that rock formation before Scott Natal got involved in the area. But Jay did not record it. If Jay did and went closer, we would have known whether it was there or not. And if it was still there, then Scott isn't responsible. If it wasn't there and it only appeared after, you could put the argument across and say Scott may be linked, which would be unfortunate. But if it does link back to the earlier days, was it a camping spot? The sword killer hideout den, as it was described in the past. That an individual saw about Kenny's comment about heading back out there and decided to team up with him or act as a rogue hiker, waiting and expecting his return to the desert and then taking him out on the spot. But if there's any truth to that, how would the supposed killer or serial killer know about the time, the day, the date, the year of when heading out? Kenny told his loved ones, told his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend at the time, only they knew. So how would anyone else know? Was it passed on from the girlfriend? Was it passed on from a family member? Was someone eavesdropping in the background in real life? But why would they be so focused on Kenny, and why would they want to take him out so badly? So the murder aspect is on the table, but the evidence of murder is somewhat lacking because you don't see blood out there. You don't see signs of a struggle to our knowledge. We've not found any bones yet, not found any knives to that extent, or even a gun, Kenny's, or loose bullet casings in terms of maybe matching the description of Kenny's firearm. And I'm being specific there because maybe SB has come across some shell casing or something like that once before. That's why I wanted to put it loosely. Nevertheless, there was that one other theory to do with vibrations and possibly weapons, which seems quite eye-opening. Let's head on over. The other idea is that the mysterious M cave could have been part of a secret installation conducting scientific experiments. Kenny described the feeling when he approached the cave as his whole body vibrating. Now that's interesting because most people have just outright said maybe it's military equipment, military related, but this has been suggested as scientific experiments. Now, if experiments were being conducted, I guess that would also involve the presence of humans. And would humans be out there in such a desolate, bleak area? But would they be underground or inside of a cave? Likely, you'd expect tunnel networks and connections for these so-called workers and scientists to get about and move around and not hike on the surface level like how Kenny would, just because of safety reasons and the temperatures. Sonic and ultrasonic weapons are a very real thing. Ultrasound or high frequencies can be focused to produce concentrated energy at a target. But what will it do? These types of weapons can be used to keep intruders out of restricted areas or even as crowd control. So in other words, access denial system. Radio waves and waves to make people feel unpleasant, uncomfortable, instill fear within the body, so it's not used to feeling, whether that be sound, the feeling of a vibration, the feeling deep within the body, being deterred, pushed away, not wanting to feel it or hear it anymore. Does make sense. Is it harmless? Maybe. But if you're exposed to it for some time, who knows if it does do any damage. Could Kenny have gotten close enough to the M cave on the third try, his fourth try, that he succumbed to high-powered sonic or ultrasonic warfare? Or could he have somehow made it through the sonic line of defence and was then killed by the military assigned to protect the cave? Well, in terms of it being in such an open area and accessible by the public, because no other hikers, I guess, were hiking out there before Kenny, there was no need to privatise the land. But then after Kenny said what he found online and went missing, and then a year after the military wanted to take over the land so no one could access it anymore, maybe as a line of defence to just seal off the whole area. That in the past there was no need to worry too much because it was unlikely that people would actually pass by or explore the area. But then after Kenny, they thought, oh goodness, we're putting it on the map and making it more of a tourist area. More action is needed now. But because they didn't get what they wanted, the land proposal takeover, what's happened since? Not too much. But have they possibly moved the stuff onwards? If they can't seal it off or if they can't push people away, then maybe just take all the equipment away and move base. Choose a different cave back on military land. What was once there may not be anymore, right? So what Kenny may have seen or felt, he doesn't anymore, neither do anyone else, because it's just not there anymore. I know others have said it didn't exist in the first place, but it could well be that it did exist, it just doesn't now because it's been moved on. There's always that possibility. But in terms of Kenny pushing through vibrations, would that have anything to do with his spiritual strong will and resilience, but ultimately physically not invincible, hence taken down, just like if you crossed over the gate or a gate to Area 51 and continued. The last theory is that Kenny went out on that third excursion to look for the M cave with the intention of never returning. Something Kenny was despondent at the failed venture of starting his own business. It wasn't really his own business in that sense. He was an inventor and he was relying on Shark Tank submissions. Quite simply, he was running out of money. Well, the thing is, that's supposedly the case, but Susan Veach, the sister-in-law, said Kenny was lined up with a new job, so he should have been okay. Kenny's girlfriend Sharon made a long, meaningful post on Kenny's MK video stating, "So many people are wondering what happened," and so on and so on. There's a photo of Kenny. He has not been found, and I feel that he probably will not be found for many, many months, if ever. I want you to know that I do not think Kenny had an accident. I believe he committed suicide. So it's an opinion, not a fact. He battled depression for many years and would not take medication or see a doctor, and the girlfriend Sharon, who's a profession in the mental health field, just let it be. They did find his cell phone by the mine shaft in the video. It is my feeling he left it behind so that he could not be tracked from the GPS in it. But he took his phone anyway to be tracked up to a certain point if it was to be tracked. Yeah, sounds like teasing to me. He also did not take his video camera with him on his solo hike. It was left in his home, so he had no intention of filming everything. But Sharon also said in a separate comment response that Kenny's other camera was missing from his house, so likely he may have taken that instead. That comment never gets acknowledged, and I wonder why. As of 2024, Kenny Veach has still not been found, even though more than 30 search and rescue team members scoured Sheep Mountain area on 3 occasions. Yeah, but not deep enough. A lot more could have been done. It feels like people gave up too soon. Kenny's family and friends mourn his loss, but take comfort in the fact that he died doing what he loved, taking in the splendours of the desert. The mentions of the family, friends, mourning for the loss of Kenny Veach is unknown of. That's the reality, because when you go on Kenny's Facebook page, there's no heartfelt comments or responses of people crying or upset. Not even the emoji reactions on Kenny's post or photos show any crying eyes or crying emojis. And maybe Kenny Veach had his comments disabled on Facebook and that's why you can't see any, but in terms of some of the posts, there was no responses, and in terms of the later post, 2014 or 2013 of photos, there was people giving a thumbs up or a smiley face emoji reaction, and that was it. No sad faces. Normally, when a known person or someone dies or passes away, even strangers will go onto that said page and react or respond, like on Instagram. But for Kenny Veach, as known as he is nowadays and how big the case is, I've just not seen anyone mourn the loss or pay their respect to Kenny on Kenny's Facebook page. How restricted is it? Do people not know Kenny's page exists out there? Why has no one done anything to it? It makes no sense whatsoever. Now, obviously, families, friends, close ones, loved ones will mourn the loss of a loved one in different ways, and some do it more privately than others. And everybody can react differently, and people go through the stages of grief, and some go through delayed stages of grief, and others go through fast stages, and some go through in different orders of grief. That can be with a loved one, someone you care and was once with or close to. And it can even be with people that you were close to in some way, but you didn't like, or they treated you badly, but still you feel their loss. And because of your empathy, you feel it and you go through the waves of emotions. But in terms of the Kenny Veach case, it just didn't seem like there was enough care or concern or worry, because the case went cold quick. To my knowledge, the family did not go out there searching or hiking whatsoever. And the girlfriend of all people decided to report Kenny missing 7 days later, when there would be virtually no chance of survival if it was a missing person case and they were stranded out there, because the first 24, maybe 48 hours are most crucial. 7 days later, less chance of survival. Why would the girlfriend do that? Because they want the chances of Kenny being found alive to be lowered drastically? or because there was no reason to worry because they already knew what likely was the case with Kenny, so there was no point reporting him missing too soon because it's like, well, he's probably dead anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Or he is alive, he's just not out there, he staged his disappearance, so I don't need to report him immediately, and I need those 7 to 8 days to help assist Kenny moving on elsewhere. And then I'll report him as missing because of a doubt, then it'll appear suspicious as if I don't care or I'm not too fazed. Just like how a murderer could help in a case, as in searching for the missing person, searching for the remains, but not going to the actual location. And you could say, why would someone be caught up in foul play also assist in the search and appear as the good guy to help, or the good girl? Because you don't want to stand out as some psychopath. You don't want to stand out as if you don't care. You want to be helpful and be cooperative to some extent to blend in. So did that happen in the Kenny Veach case in any way possible? But yeah, beside that endpoint was a bit shocking, but I think the article overall went into a good variety and structure, much better than what I've previously come across. I'll give them that. But the whole ultrasound, ultrasonic, access denial, the placement of it, the location, where would it likely be when out in the desert area? If we just head on over to Google Earth briefly, we'll do a quick map analysis. In my opinion, I would say the possible spot where military equipment, ultrasonic, ultrasounds and weird waves and bandwidths could come from, the source may have anything to do ranging from the mine shaft, which you see here, if there was any tunnel underground networks, and more so linking on, or primarily the hotspot down here, this flow of Picture Canyon, which is somewhat heading west. And the reason why I say down here is because on the right hand side, roughly where I put the marker there, is where you've got the row of caves, the M-shaped one, the keyhole cave with a weird hole in the background of the wall, and the supposed covered cave. And then opposite it, adjacent, where the darkness is roughly round there, you have the cave which Kenny appeared to be scared of, which some claimed there was eyes inside lurking. And then further down here, you got that big giant M-shaped ridge, which some thought was a cave of some sort, and it was supposedly shallow. Some have said SB has gone up there on the ridge and you could go so far in and it was shallow, but it wasn't anything. And just before that, if I flip the screen, it's not the best angling, of course, but just back here, roughly on the left-hand side, which is somewhat south side, we're facing west at the moment. That's where Jeff Clark came across roughly his M cave, which appeared like it collapsed in, and no one else has seen it since. And I was like, roughly on the side there. Very rough, okay, but around this area. So it's a hotspot area. Jeff Clark missing time footage, taking 2 hours to get to cover under 1 mile. Under 1 mile taking 2 hours from a photo comparison of photo A to photo B, which makes no sense whatsoever. Very strange. And SB losing footage as well. If there's any interference with equipment, technology not working properly, footage being disrupted, broken, and I can't remember the word for it, where files break down and you can't locate or access them, right? If there's any interference with bandwidths, electromagnetic pulses, all kinds of military-related equipment which could either act as access denial to push hikers away from the area to move them on. Maybe that's what influenced Kenny when he was scared and jittery and, you know, with his movement and his words and his stuttering and all of that, right? Any other forms of military-related equipment which could influence or damage audio or more so video quality. Things like that, interference, it makes you wonder. If it's a hotspot area where numerous things have gone wrong or happen and it's unexplained, there might be more going on in this area. Whether it links to the shallow caves or the covered supposed caves nearby, it makes you think. And furthermore, if I just get back to this area roughly, where the keyhole cave was, and I say roughly, That keyhole shallow cave with that hole in the back wall, how deep does that go in? Because if there was mentions of the mineshaft having underground tunnel networks, is there anything going on inside of the mountains, through the wall, through the canyon walls, inside, deep down into the mountains, beneath, under the rock? Passageways, equipment, hidden things. The possibilities are endless. But this area does seem to be very strange and creepy and things going on. Visually, you might not be able to see, but it's influencing or impacting hikers out there or parts of their footage, recording and equipment. What will happen to the next person if they go back out here at a given time? Because it may not always be guaranteed to happen the same way. Might be right place, wrong time, and that's when it occurs. Now, Jeff Clark did get zapped, and it wasn't in this area, it was elsewhere, which I can do a separate analysis on at some point. But if Kenny felt vibrations in this area, if that was true, Kenny felt vibrations, Jeff Clark had lost time, and SB had lost footage. Is there some kind of weird interference of military equipment? Frequencies which impact the mood behaviour of people, frequencies which can damage or cause some short-term problems for people that are out in the area. It was Sean Horlacher that when investigating the supposed covered cave, which is roughly there, I think, on the way back he got sick and ill quite badly. Some have said that might just be because of the heat and not eating or drinking enough, but then others believe the timing, a bit of coincidence, there's more to it. Getting close to that covered cave, pressing his face against the rock, looking into the gaps, breathing in the air that may be emitted from it, any radiation poisoning, any frequencies being emitted out of that area. Is there a way to test or monitor or read frequencies with equipment if you used to put it close to a cave or a supposed looking cave, like how you get one of those Geiger counters to track radiation? Can you get a counter which tracks frequency levels, sound, ultrasound, ultrasonic and all of that? Because if so, who knows what you could detect in the area. All in all, hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it somewhat interesting. If you want, it'll be appreciated if you hit the thumbs up, the like button, share the video so more people get to see it, and these other possibilities and theories to explain what happened to Kenny and why he didn't make it back. If you are on mobile, down below in the comment section, if you swipe across, there is a hype button. Feel free to click the hype button if you haven't already this week, because it'll just push the video out there. And of course, much awareness can help, and it can also keep the case alive. As said, I do think this article was better compared to the previous ones I've looked at. Still some dodgy details, but at least it gave a variety of theories. Maybe it's an umbrella term what they used, but still, it mentioned some aspects which I've not looked into deep myself, and today I was able to do it just a little bit more. We'll see what happens next and what video needs to come out next, but it was important to also do this video and prioritise Kenny Veach, at least today, tonight, even when I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to be doing something else, is because with looking at the comments on the previous video, the positive comments there, this video, it's the least that could be done. So with that all being said, thanks for watching, appreciate it, take care, I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.